Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
And very glad to have on with us today Lieutenant Governor candidate for the Republican ticket, Marc Molinaro's running mate, Julie Killian. Julie Killian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, first, let's go over your bio information. Understand you held office there in Westchester County.
Well, most importantly, I'm the mother of five, and 5 wonderful children who make me very proud. And I was born in New York, studied chemical engineering at Notre Dame, came back to New York, worked in finance, got an MBA, but been involved in my community for the last 25 years, raising my children, involved in a lot of different organizations. Started a drug and alcohol coalition in my local community, and then served for 6 years on the Rye City Council, the last 2 years as deputy mayor. So I'm very proud of being the mother of 5. I have a wonderful husband that's very supportive, and also my public service has been incredibly rewarding, and I hope to be honored by the vote of the people of the state of New York to do things at a state level.
So much going on. Last week, the big news was all the debates. Don't know how much you caught of the Attorney General's race or the governor's race or lieutenant governor's debates, I should say. Wondering, why was it that the Republicans weren't included in the lieutenant governor's debate or the governor's debate? Did you have any inside knowledge on that?
Well, because there's primaries and we're not involved in the primaries, so once those primaries are over, I highly anticipate having a lieutenant governor's debate for whoever is actually on the ballot. I feel very lucky to be on the ballot right now, and we'll see what happens on the Democratic side.
Sure thing. Now, let's go through the issues. We know from talking to Marc Molinaro, the Dutchess County executive and Republican candidate for governor, that the SAFE Act is a big issue that comes up when the Republicans visit this part of the state from the Molinaro campaign.
Well, one of the things I say to people is the most important function of government is keeping people safe, and that means a few things to me. First and foremost, protecting the Second Amendment, but also supporting our law enforcement. And I was very disappointed to hear the governor's remarks about calling the ICE agents thugs. We have to stop demonizing law enforcement. They are the people that keep us safe every day, and I find that shameful. It also, keeping us safe also means supporting our veterans and our military. And, Mark and I are very much proponents, obviously, of the Second Amendment, and any thought to the contrary is wrong. But I did start a local drug and alcohol coalition in my city, which has been very successful in helping us deal with the problems. And I am very passionate about, trying to help kids before they get to the point of drugs or guns or violence. Because we need to help people to deal with mental health issues, and the earlier that we can help people, the more success that we have. And looking at some of the root causes of why a child might go off the rails is incredibly important, and that's something that I'm very passionate about, and wanted to bring more to the state level.
It's no secret that Governor Andrew Cuomo's campaigning has moved to the left because of the presence of Cynthia Nixon in the race, and legalizing marijuana is something that she brought up to the governor in the debate last Wednesday night. And I noticed Thursday morning the governor sent out a press release saying that he's interested in legalizing marijuana for adults, and that came the day after the debate. Did you have any thoughts on that move by Governor Cuomo?
Well, I am, as I said, I've done a lot of work in substance abuse and mental health. I follow very closely what goes on in the other states that have legalized, and a lot of issues have come up that people are ignoring. And I go around the state, I ask every law enforcement officer, I meet, what do you think of legalization? And every single one of them says, absolutely, we should not do it. If you look at what's gone on in Colorado, they have a 66% increase in marijuana-related traffic fatalities. They have more crime in Colorado. There's more black market activity. The drug cartels are in Colorado. They're arresting more minority kids. So a lot of the good that they think legalization will bring us is not what is actually happening in the states. They talk about social justice issues. So I think that we need to have more research on medical marijuana. I think that we need to look at decriminalization, but legalization to me is a step too far. We're also not talking about the environmental impacts on the water. There's much contamination in marijuana. There's pesticides issues. It's a plant that's subject to fungus, which is why so many pesticides are used. And, there's a lot of watershed issues and groundwater issues that they're dealing with in these states. So we really need to look at the entire issue when it comes to marijuana, and there's not enough enforcement being done in states across the country. And I follow it very closely, and there's a lot of reasons that we should be legalizing. And one of the primary reasons in Colorado, with teens, they have a 50% higher rate of marijuana usage than the national average since they started legalizing. So that you use the phrase legalize for adults. The problem is that's not what happens in reality, and more kids start using, and that's a big issue. It is, marijuana, alcohol, cigarettes are all proven to be gateway drugs, and we really need to be smart when we're looking at what these things are going to really impact our kids.
Talking with Julie Killian this morning here on Newsmaker Show. She's the Republican Lieutenant Governor candidate. Julie Killian, did you? What do you make of medical marijuana? Some people felt that was opening the doors to legalizing marijuana. Some of the Republicans supported it, but some felt that it was going to open the doors to legalizing marijuana. Did you have any thoughts on that issue and that debate?
Well, I did not hear the debate because I was out at an event, so I will get back to you on exactly what was said in the debate. But as I just said earlier, with medical marijuana, there's a lot more research that needs to be done, so we know what conditions it helps. We know what kind of dosing. And contamination, as I said, is a huge issue in marijuana, and much of the legal marijuana is also contaminated with pesticides, and that can really hurt someone when they're sick. But you know what I would have loved to have heard about in the debate? I would have loved to have heard about the New York State economy, how we can help upstate. That wasn't discussed at all in the debate, and I find that shameful. I've spent 3 months traveling around the state. We have the most amazing people. I've heard great stories, but I've heard a lot of heartbreaking stories. And we need a governor that is going to focus on the people of the state of New York, and we don't have that right now. And I know that person is Mark Molinaro. Mark is the epitome of the American dream, and he's a kid that grew up on food stamps with a single mom that is now running to be governor of one of the largest states in the country. And that shows the promise of America, the opportunity that we have here. And we are the greatest state. I'm an empty nester on Saturday, a few more days. And, my friends are leaving the state, and I was born here. I'm going to stay here and fight for our state, fight for upstate, certainly. There's not enough to focus on the people of New York, the hardworking people, and also the businesses that make us great. The agriculture. It's one of the biggest industry in New York, and we need to be focusing on helping our businesses, helping make it a level playing field. And none of that was talked about in the debate, and I find that shameful.
That they didn't bring up agriculture. I think it was former state senator George Winter who said on this show one time that the closest some of these New York City politicians come to understanding where milk comes from is going to the local corner grocery store down in New York City. Wanted to move on to Common Core. That was introduced. Everybody pretty much admits introduced too quickly into the New York State educational system. Did you have any thoughts on that issue?
Well, Common Core, when it was developed, the standards were not developmentally appropriate. And I believe in more local and county control. I think we should be pushing down and making decisions on a local level. For far too many things that come out of Albany are really focused more downstate, or they might make a little more sense for downstate. It's like a one-size-fits-all way of legislating, and I think that many of the things need to be made. Decisions should be made more on a local and county level, and education is certainly one of them. And they know in their local areas what's needed, what's important, and we should allow more decisions to be made closer to home. And I feel, as far as education goes, I also feel very strongly on vocational education. I always have, and as I've traveled the state, it's very apparent to me that we need to focus more on workforce development. I hear often that there's not the people that have jobs, they don't have the skilled workforce to be able to fill the jobs. And we need to beef up our BOCES program. We need to focus more on vocational education. We are not doing enough of that, and there is a shortage. And I hear that definitely upstate, but I also hear it downstate where they don't have, machinists and plumbers and electricians. And, to stigmatize vocational education is wrong. And for far too long, we've been pushing every kid to go to college. And I went to college. I think education is super important for all kids, but it doesn't have to be the one-size-fits-all education that we seem to be focused on today.
I wanted to bring up the topic of President Donald Trump. It seems, and they've said this on both the left and the right, that the governor is campaigning heavily against President Donald Trump, more so than he is Cynthia Nixon or Mark Molinaro. Your thoughts on the job that President Trump has done, and your thoughts on the governor's constant mentioning of President Trump?
Well, our governor, I just slipped and about to call him President Cuomo. He wants to be the president, and that is what he is running for. And I find that shameful that he does not focus on the people of New York. He flies around the country. He's worried about everybody outside of New York, and we need a governor that's going to focus on the people of New York and care about them and care about every single tax dollar that they send to us that is so precious to them. It is their money, not our money, and the way that it is spent in these pay-to-play bid rigging scandals. The money goes out the door to his political cronies, and it just doesn't work for the people of New York. And our economic development is terrible. As I've traveled the state, particularly upstate, there is areas where things are going really well. They said that business has never been better. They do attribute that to President Trump, but they feel like they need help from the state. Many are just bogged down with regulation after regulation in the state, and they feel like it's difficult to make their businesses grow. So I want a governor that's going to focus on the people of New York, and that's Mark Molinaro, and I am so proud to be on the ballot with him. And I have so enjoyed meeting the amazingly resilient people of New York. We have survived here in New York despite much of the bad policy, and how great this state could really be, and the levels that we could get to, if we take off the shackles of the business regulations and let these businesses grow and let people thrive. And I worry about our kids, our future. I have 5 children. 3 of them are out of school, and 2 have gone to live in the Midwest where it's cheaper. They can't afford to be here. And if we can't keep our kids here and let these communities thrive, because we have all ages, keep it affordable for seniors, keep it more affordable for the kids, and let these kids stay here after we educate them, we're going to be in trouble in years to come. And affordability is really the number one issue that I hear about from everybody. And we've got to lower these property taxes. Mark and I have a lot of ideas. And again, really look at the business regulations. It's just too much. We are impeding business activity in New York, and there's just so much more we can do. Mark and I have a lot of ideas, and I really hope that the voters of New York will give us the opportunity to serve them and focus on them starting January 1.
We're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Republican Lieutenant Governor candidate Julie Killian. Stay with us.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
We had a Monday Night Football doubleheader to close out Week 1 in the NFL. In the late game, the Rams beat the Raiders in Oakland 33-13. LA was down 13-10 at the half, then outscored Oakland 23-0 in the second half, capped by a Marcus Peters 90-yard interception return for touchdown. LA quarterback Jared Goff had 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions in the win. Oakland quarterback Derek Carr, no touchdown passes, 3 interceptions in the loss. In the early game, the Jets handled the Lions in Detroit 48-17. The game was tied at 17 in the third quarter when New York then outscored Detroit 31-0 to end the game. Jets rookie quarterback Sam Darnold threw an interception for touchdown on the first play of his pro career. He then finished 16 of 21 for 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 1 interception. Detroit quarterback Matthew Stafford had 1 touchdown pass, 4 interceptions in the loss. In baseball games of note, the Brewers edged the Cubs in Chicago 3-2. Milwaukee is now just 1 game back of Chicago in the race for first in the NL Central.
From the Fox Business Network, Tesla shares rallied Monday, rising 9% after CEO Elon Musk promised employees this will be an amazing quarter and will deliver more than twice as many cars as last quarter. Baird analyst Ben Callow is urging investors stick with Tesla even with the drama. Callow says he toured Tesla's Fremont factory and believes it should be a competitive advantage for Tesla over the long term. Americans were borrowing more this summer. The Federal Reserve says consumer borrowing increased in July. Non-revolving credit, which includes auto and student loans, rose 6.4%. Volvo Cars and its owner Geely have postponed plans to go public, possibly because of trade tensions. The Dow Jones Industrials dropped 59 points yesterday, but the Nasdaq was up 21 and the S&P added 5. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Ginny Cosola.
You wouldn't put a square peg in a round hole, so why would you deploy a traditional firewall in a modern decentralized network? Firewalls have new requirements for businesses leveraging SaaS-based applications and public cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. We're in the cloud generation now, so your firewalls have to be engineered to fit right in. Reclaim your cloud network. Try a Barracuda Cloud Generation Network or application firewall free at barracuda.com/firewalls.
When Joe Arrigo came out of retirement to represent the 133rd Assembly District, he said he would be a voice for our region. But when he got to Albany, and now, after being challenged to serious policy debates again, we deserve a strong voice for our small farms and small businesses and to speak up for the safety of our school children. We don't deserve a no-show Joe. Paid for by friends of Marjorie Burns.
St. James Hospital is committed to providing excellent care close to home. That's why we've added 2 new general surgeons, Dr. Brian Watkins and Dr. Adam Bassler. They're both passionate about caring for people in communities like Cornell, and they bring expertise in the latest techniques like minimally invasive surgery. Dr. Brian Watkins and Dr. Adam Bassler, they're helping St. James provide the best care in the best place, close to home. St. James Hospital, welcome to a healthy new day. Part of UR Medicine.
Newsmaker show. I'm Brian O'Neill. On today with Republican Lieutenant Governor candidate Julie Killian. Julie, in the last segment, and I had so many other questions to ask you, but since you brought it up, you said you and Mark Molinaro have a lot of ideas, and I did have some other questions about the way things are these days in Albany. What do you see the future of state government being if you and Mark Molinaro are elected in November? What are the plans?
Well, affordability is the first thing to focus on. We've got to lower the property taxes. It's driving all kinds of people out of our state. We have the largest out-migration of any state in the country. That's a shame. And people, I hear it every day. I can't afford to be here anymore. I can't afford to pay my property taxes. And, we're breaking up families by either causing grandparents to leave, kids to leave. I'm in the situation, I have kids out of college. We have parents, and it's just so expensive to be here. And unless that changes, we're going to have that continued out-migration. So focusing on lowering property taxes. We need to talk about medical malpractice reform. That's one of the reasons healthcare is so expensive in New York. But also, as I said, for businesses, creating an environment where businesses can grow here, can be started here, and they don't have to focus all day on doing paperwork for the state. They can focus on their businesses and growing them. And those are the things that will get us to the point where we have a more vibrant economy. And when we have that vibrant economy and tax dollars are coming in, then we have plenty of money to help those who can't help themselves. And, something that's very important to both Mark and I. Mark has an autistic daughter, and helping the special needs community has been something that's incredibly important to both he and I over many years. And he started a program in Dutchess called Think Differently. And it's about helping people with special needs be more integrated into community and looking at them in a way that they are part of the community and being welcomed in the community. And that has been brought to other counties, incredibly successful. But Mark created that program in an environment. He became county executive. There was a $40 million deficit. He brought it around. They have a $20 million surplus. They've actually cut taxes and reduce government, but at the same time increasing services and helping those more in need. And I think that is a great model for what our state should be looking towards.
Lieutenant Governor candidate on the Republican ticket, Julie Killian. One of President Trump's big pluses, his supporters say, is deregulation. Trump supporters say that the work that President Trump has done to deregulate has done wonders for the national economy. Wondering, do you and Mark Molinaro have any plans to deregulate as Trump has in Washington?
We have 750,000 business regulations in New York, and I mean, people don't even know what they all are, and we keep piling them on. So yes, it's common sense regulation. It's regulation that makes sure businesses are safe, make sure people are safe, but not making it too onerous. And right now, it's way too onerous. And we have regulations that are old and don't make sense. There's many things that are now done online, and so much of the regulation, particularly in the Labor Department, is related to paper and filling out paperwork and sending it in. And we just need to modernize our regulations more than anything. But just too many, it's a lot. We legislate a lot on anecdotes and sound bites, and not enough on reasoned debate and data. And what kind of regulation do we really need? We just pile it on, and this has been happening for way too many years. So we absolutely need to cut back on the regulations and have just common sense regulations. And right now, you'd be surprised at all the things that we have make businesses do that make no sense. And you go around the state, you will hear that story time and time again. So we need to look at that. And I know that I'm confident that when Mark and I can get in there and look at all of this and work with our partners across the state, that we will make things happen. And New York will become a business-friendly state. Because right now we punish, we demonize business owners, we punish entrepreneurs, we pick winners and losers. The economic development programs in this state have been a total failure. And we have spent millions and billions out the door to Cuomo's political cronies, and it has done nothing for the New York State taxpayer. And he should be ashamed of that. And I will say about him, he is either corrupt or he's completely incompetent, and he has to go. We need a governor, again, that will focus on the people of New York and the businesses of New York and allow all of us to thrive.
And a final question for you, Julie Killian, Lieutenant Governor candidate for the Republicans. Startup New York ads. Would you continue the New York is open for business commercial campaign? Those commercials are seen all over the country. Would you keep that going?
Startup New York was a failed program. We were trying to incent people to come to New York. I know people that tried to start businesses through Startup New York. The paperwork was so onerous, they gave up. What we need to do is have a level playing field for everybody. Let's help the businesses that are in New York right now. And so Startup New York is a failed program. We need to make it easier and cheaper to do business in New York. That's what's going to attract businesses here, and that's what's going to help our businesses here grow, not fancy commercials.
Lieutenant Governor candidate, Republican Julie Killian, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope that the people of New York will look at all their options on November 6th and choose Mark Molinaro and I.